That's Oz on the other line. All right. For everyone who doesn't know, my name is Josh Ray. I'm part of the Hands-On Tech team with New York Cares. Thank you so much for coming today. Me, as long as my other two colleagues, Jillian and Christian back there, we can help you if you want to learn more about our program afterwards. Come chat with us. But in a nutshell, we help provide trainings here for nonprofits, and also we do one-on-one projects, say with social media or AdWords or analytics. If you need extra help, we try to do those with nonprofits throughout the year. So this is just one of our trainings, and we're lucky to have Elizabeth Rashke, who's on the analytics team. And it's also really cool because Liz volunteers regularly with New York Cares, so she knows a little bit of the background of what we do at New York Cares as well. So we're really happy to have her, and without further ado, I'll let her get started.
Okay, I'm Liz. Glad to have you all here. Today, I'm just going to do no slides, just show you the product and do a lot of demos. So if at any point in time this can be super informal, just shout out a question. You can raise your hand, I guess, if you want. But feel free to shout out a question, and hopefully we'll be able to answer it for you. So real quick, just before we get started, just a show of hands. Has anyone used Google Analytics before? About half? Okay. Do you guys, raise your hand, you guys all have a website? Hopefully, yeah? Okay, all right. And then I'm hoping to get you all here, but does anyone like free stuff? Good, good, okay, because everything I'm going to show you today is free, so that's all good. Google Analytics, in a nutshell, is a free product that Google offers to track your website activity. So it's one piece of tracking code that you'll send to your webmaster, or if you are that person, you just put it on every page of your site, and then you get all the reports that I'm about to show you today. So it is kind of a one-time setup that you just have to create the account and get the tracking code on the page, and then from that point forward, you really don't have to mess with anything else. So if you can get past that one hurdle, then hopefully we can get you some good information about your website activity, how people are getting there, what they're doing on the site, and the whole goal is to understand online traffic and hopefully get yourself more of it so you can get more engagement with your program. Okay, I'm going to show you how to create an account later on in the training. What I'm going to do is try to hook you into the product first and show you some of the features that it offers. So if any of you in the back can't see, feel free to move up as time goes along. I know it's kind of small on the screen, but let's go ahead and just jump in. So on the left-hand side of the account, you'll see all the main reports. We're going to go over just a couple key features of each one, but they're audience reports, which has all information about who's on your site. Traffic sources report, which has information of how they got to your site. The content reports say, okay, once they're on the site, what did they do? What pages did they hit? How long were they there? And then lastly, conversions. So if you guys have any sort of on-site goals, like a donation or maybe just signing up for the program or becoming like a member, that type of goal tracking is also available. So let's just jump into audience first. So once you click on any report, you'll see on the left-hand side a bunch of mini reports that are offered in there. So for those of you in the back, you can see demographic information, geographic information, behavior, mobile, a bunch of stuff, probably too much stuff that you won't really need. So let's jump into some of the big ones. First, I'm going to go into something that's real easy to look at, the geolocation report. So here you can see a map overview of traffic by country. And first, I should have started this off. I'm demoing a Google Analytics account that I have that tracks the Google store. So you can buy like yo-yos and YouTube socks. So you might see some yo-yos and YouTube socks later on once we look at some content information. So let's just click into the United States because I'm not sure how many of us have global organizations. But once you click into the United States, you can see a visual map breakout of how much traffic you're getting by state. And below you can get a better like graphic, like a table breakout of all the traffic you're getting by state. So here's how a basic report looks like. On the far left, we call this like a dimension. So in this example, it's the actual state. And then each of the columns represents a metric. So you've probably seen 1,000 tables like this before. But our common metrics that we have would be visits, pages per visit, average site duration, percent of new visitors. So where are the new people coming from? As far as the one that I really like, we'll go over more later, is bounce rate. It gets really granular. So if you click into New York, you can see it broken down by city. You can toggle the view to metro. But the point is there's a bunch of information here. As marketers and people who wear many hats, which is you guys, this might be a lot of information. So what would you do with it? Does anyone have any ideas? We know maybe we get a lot of traffic from a certain city in New York and not as much from another city in New York. Market more to areas maybe that you aren't getting traffic in. And let's say maybe do like an on-site demo on a place where you are getting a lot of interest in to try to capitalize on that. Another idea is if you have an AdWords account and you're getting a lot of qualified traffic from one specific city, maybe you can make like a separate campaign for that one and really like go for it, like adjust the bids or maybe take away budget from a worse performing city and allocate it to a better performing city. So that didn't cost you anything, you just reallocated. But that's some of the decision making I like to do with data is a lot of reallocation and just coming up with creative ideas. So questions on the city reports? No? Do you guys have this type of data already available? Yeah? All right, I'll have to impress you with something else. Okay. All right. So we will go real quick, show you another audience report. This is under the behavior tab, and it's called new versus returning. So this one's really easy to see and to understand. A new visitor is someone who this is the very first time they've been to your website. A returning visitor is someone who's been there at least twice or more. Usually we find a big difference in the behavior of people who are returning versus people who are new. So on the Google Store site, you can actually buy stuff, which allows me to demo these top tabs. So if you've set up a goal, and we'll show you that later on in the day, or you've set up e-commerce, which is like money or donation tracking, you'll see these tabs appear at the top. So right now I care about money, so I'm going to click on the e-commerce tab. And you can see here that this is the revenue tab. Overall, new visitors have brought slightly more revenue than returning visitors by about $50,000. But on the right here, you can see this column called per visit value. That means on average, when I get one of these visitors, how much are they bringing to my site? So you can see if you have like, I don't know, a huge Superman vision that returning visitors bring about $22 every time they visit my site, whereas new visitors only bring about $3 every time they visit my site. So who's the most valuable section of traffic? Returning, for sure, yeah. So what would I do with that? Anyone have ideas? Yeah. Definitely. That's a great idea. Yeah, so if you can maybe capture a list or an email address if they've registered of people who have been on your site before, maybe you can send them a blast to try to get them back. If you're really into like AdWords, there's a product called remarketing, which specifically targets or shows ads to people who've been on your site before. Or if they've engaged in specific content that was obviously successful, maybe show more types of that content. So I'm just coming up with some examples, and thank you for your help. But these are just some of the things you can do with all the different reports. So now, let's move on to, we'll do mobile. Okay, so the overview is pretty simple. Yes, no. Was the visit to my site on a mobile device or was it on a desktop? So you can see here that I get much more traffic from a desktop site than I do from a mobile site, which is probably expected. Let's say I don't have money or donations or e-commerce on my site. I care about goals. I'll click on this goal set here. And let's say this is hard to read, but it says contact us. So maybe you guys have a contact us or, hey, I'd like to learn more about this, and you've set it up as a goal. You can see here that, well, I actually don't have any. But if you had more contacting us on mobile than desktop, then maybe you're doing a good job with mobile, or if it's vice versa, maybe you need to make your contact us form easier to complete with a mobile device. Okay, so now before I show you the next report, I'm gonna come up with a hypothetical problem. Let's say your company says, all right, we're gonna invest in mobile. We wanna have people engage on our site via multiple devices. We wanna make an app. Should we make an iPhone app or should we make an Android app? And they ask you this question. How would you go about picking it other than just what phone you have? Exactly. Yeah, so she said, look at your Google Analytics or whichever tracking software and see which platform is giving you the most users. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go to the devices report and I'm going to go to branding. Let's see. So, ironically, the Google store gets much, much more Apple traffic than it does Google traffic. So I would decide if I were building an app to go with an iPhone app first. Similarly, if you were just building out a mobile site and you didn't have a lot of time, you'd want to just test it how it would look on an iPhone first, maybe before you tested it on an Android phone or a Windows phone. Does that make sense? Okay. So not set means either, it can mean a bunch of different things. The general blanket statement is that Google Analytics couldn't collect the data for some reason. In the mobile reports, it means it's a new device that we haven't indexed. So this is probably too nerdy, but we index a new device, or all new devices every 2-ish, 3-ish weeks. But they launch phones faster than that, so that's why you see some not set. Yeah. Good question. So she's asked, hey, Liz, you say visits are the most important sheer amount of traffic, but you want to dig deeper and see which platform gives you the most engaged visitors who stayed longest and gave you the most money, which is a fabulous train of thought. Here you can see there's 2 out of 3 of those requests. We have straight up visits in this column and average visit duration in this column, but we would need to flip to the e-commerce tab to get the dollar amounts. So here you can see Apple phones are generating a lot more revenue than Google phones. Later on in the session, I'll show you how to make a customized report. So these are all pre-built for you. You don't have to set these up. With a customized report, we can have just those 3 columns so that you don't have to like click around or know which columns to look at. Question? Can you say that one more time?
So like when you're on your phone, you go to like Safari and search for the food store, or you can click on the Google app. Is that counted differently, or is that the same?
Good question. So for those of you that can't hear, the question is mobile site traffic, like via just the browser, versus an app that you might have. They're totally different. So that's a really good question. The mobile device tracking is done by default with the magic piece of code for desktop and mobile. It's the same one. For app tracking, it's completely different code setup. Does anyone here have an app? No? Okay. Well, it involves like SDK libraries, and it's pretty rough if you don't have like a webmaster or like someone whose job is to do that. But for now, I'll leave it at it's completely separate. And if you do at some point decide to get an app, probably you want to contact someone maybe at Google for help on directions for that. Yeah. Yep, so this right now is including my desktop site and people who are visiting my either desktop or mobile site from their cell phones. The only thing that's not included here is a Google Store app. One, because I don't have one, and two, because even if we did, we wouldn't have set it up yet. Does that make sense?
So it's not included. Someone who came from the Google app on the phone would not be included in the statistics. Is that right?
So there's I think two things. There's a Google app, like you can Google something on your phone, but you still access the Google Store's mobile site or your mobile site. That would be included here. The only traffic that's not included here is if your company made an app that you could download from the store. That was not here. Yeah, and we don't. They don't care about selling socks on an app. I don't know why, but they don't. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, questions on this? No? All right. So there's a bunch more reports in here, like service provider, mobile input selector, like touchscreen versus like spinny BlackBerry wheel, but I don't care about that. Just so you know, there's like browser and operating system, which is like Firefox, Safari, Chrome. It's super detailed. You would really use these reports if you were like trying to make your website look the best on every browser. These might be a little too detailed for now, so I might skip over them, if that's okay. But just know that there's a lot of stuff here. Okay. Oh, let me show you just one more. Language. I know in New York, I'm from Michigan, so we usually just speak some English around there. But New York, probably you'd want to pay attention to this too. It has a default language report. So this shows on which language is someone's default browser setting when they visit your site. This is important because if your boss or if you're the boss, ask yourself, hey, we're thinking of creating a translated site. Which language should we go for first? You could just pluck one out of thin air and say, here you go, we're making French. Or you could look at your data and try to align with who's most often visiting your site, and if you wanted to dig deeper, who's most engaged with your site to try to make it a bit easier for them. Should have done that one. These are in like kind of codes, but you can decode them, I think, pretty easily. Like ES is Spanish. So there's like a whole key of them in a Help Center article. All right, so that's audience. So now we know a bunch of information about who is on the site. We know where they came from. We know what devices they're on. We know weird things like their browser and screen resolution size. We don't care about that. So we're going to move on into how they actually got to the site. So this is a pretty big section for anyone who does like marketing emails, AdWords. If you're trying to figure out like, should you spend your money on a TV commercial versus an online something or other, this has all that information. So I'll show like Facebook and Twitter. You guys might be into social. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with just the basic all traffic overview. Here you can see all the different traffic sources that are driving traffic to your site. So first we've got Google Organic is bringing the most amount of people to my site. And right under that you have direct none, which means people who've typed your site in directly to the browser or through like a bookmark or something. And then it goes down from there. I think t.co is Twitter. Are you guys Twitterers? Good. I'm really bad at Twitter, so if I say something wrong, you can laugh. Okay, so what could you do here? If you ask yourself, all right, I'm going to start investing my time into being a social media, I don't know, social media person. What should I do first? Should I build out a Facebook site? Should I invest in Twitter? Should I invest in Google Plus? Should I invest in, I don't know, there's hundreds of them. Those are my 3 that I know. What would you do? You're getting a pattern here probably. You look at the data, you'd see which one's bringing you the most people already, most qualified people, and then maybe start from there. That way you're just maximizing your time and not, funneling time and money at something that people aren't really engaged with. Yes. Okay, so we've got a ninja in the back. She wants to know if these traffic sources are bringing first-time visitors or return visitors. So this is a good time to skip into an advanced feature. We're going to show you at the top of all reports, you should see this button called Advanced Segments. This is my favorite thing in Google Analytics, just saying. I'm going to show you a lot more options with these in a minute. But if you click on them, everyone should have the same shared set of default segments. And what these are temporary, you can think of them as like a temporary data filter. So I want you to split my traffic to show me new people and returning people. So I'm going to check both of these off and press apply. Just when you think we couldn't show you more information, I do this to you. Okay, so it's loading up. And now, in the overview and by each traffic source, you can now see it split between Google Organic brought me this many new visitors, so first-time site visitors, and this many return visitors. So I bet you asked that with something in mind, right? Like which social source is bringing you the most new people versus maybe people continually come from them? Yeah. So you might want to invest in someone that's bringing you new visitors, right? Question in the back? There is not tracking for that. That's because it's kind of like a browser setting, so we're not able to do that. But good question. Can you, so, like, do you mean how they got there, like what site they were on before, or? Yeah, so if you're, right. So that's a good question. So if everyone can hear that, if someone has set your website as their home page, they will come up as a direct visitor over and over and over and over again. So this is probably people who are like you're working at your company, or you, or like someone who is a huge donor maybe would do this. We would recommend, and this is more of an advanced setup, but it's good that you brought it up, you can build copies of these profiles and filter out your employees. So you can say, show me all like non-employee traffic. And then if you want to build a third one to say, show me my employee-only traffic, you could do that too. So you're right, though, back to your question, you can't necessarily track if they've typed it in versus access to bookmark versus it's the home page. But that would all be funneled under direct traffic. Question? Yeah.
So with each filters on, if you were to go back to the different polls, you see how many new versus returning visitors accomplished each goal, or does the filter go away?
Nope. So let's say I'm going to go to e-commerce instead of goals because I think my goals are all zeros. So if I went to the e-commerce tab, you could definitely see how much money and bang for your buck is what I like to call the per visit value column, new versus returning. per whichever dimension that you're looking at. Question? Oh boy. Back? Okay.
And scroll down. There was, we were saying, well, YouTube has, the first place that things go. But
Yep.
this looks like a good place to explain the bounce rate, how that affects it, because it's so different for YouTube than anything else.
Good question. All right, so let's just talk about bounce rate. Have any of you guys heard of this Google guy called Avinash? All right, he's like a hilarious speaker, an analytics evangelist, and one of his most famous phrases is, "I came, I puked, and I left," which is how he defines bounce rate. So hopefully now you will never forget bounce rate. What this means is someone entered your site and then left immediately without clicking on another button. So in other words, a low engagement visit. Came, puked, left. Okay, maybe not puked, but just left. Anyways, so if on any of these metric columns, you can actually click them and sort it up to highest to lowest. So these are all kind of random. They've only had one visit, so I'm not going to do that. But she noticed here that YouTube had a 60% bounce rate, and the site average is just about 12%. So these YouTubers coming to the Google store are puking and leaving more often than anyone else. So they're low engaged visitors. So back to the original thought processing question, if I'm deciding, hey, should I build out Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, or YouTube? Can't believe I forgot about YouTube. YouTube has the most amount of visits, but really poor site engagement compared to the others. So you'll need to make a decision here if you want to, maybe, here's what I would probably do is investigate my YouTube channel and see if I have completely messed it up. And then secondly, find my best maybe new attracting visitor social site that has good engagement and then build that out maybe more from scratch. But yes, bounce rate. What could be wrong with it?
Why would it be the YouTube site as opposed to the site, your own site? What's making them leave right now?
Yeah, so oh gosh, deep confessions. I'm not a super power YouTube user, but I'm pretty sure that you can set up a YouTube channel that has videos about your company, videos about what you do. So let's say you had a video that maybe didn't link to your site or had a dead link to your site or linked to a weird page on your site that didn't make sense. I'm sure this has happened to you before where you see an ad or a video that talks about yo-yos and then you click and somehow you're in men's biking outfits and you're just like, well, no, and then you leave. So maybe what you want to do there, and this applies to your AdWords campaigns especially, is just make sure the ad that you're showing, or the video in this case, is leading to something that makes sense to the user so that they don't just leave right away. There also is a side piece about your website too. It might not be a problem with YouTube. It might be your website doesn't load completely or they can't figure out what they're looking at. And there's a product that I'm going to show you in a bit how to optimize your website too. Question? Organic and referral. Yep. So the question is, what's the difference between organic and referral? Organic is a search engine, so a free search engine, like Google, Bing, Yahoo, and AOL. There's hundreds of them. I can't think of any more. Dogpile, was that one? Yeah. A referral is pretty much any other site. So let's say you have a blog that links to you, or the New York Times wrote an article about you that links to you. That would show up as a New York Times referral. In this case, someone's linking to me on YouTube, so that's why it's showing up as a YouTube referral. Question? And something else? Yeah. I'm going to answer that in just a second. Good question. I have a really cool demo for it too. I think it's cool. Okay, back in the back. Yep. So that question from the back was, how do you tell like paths people are taking on the site? Like when they're on this page, what do they see next and after that? That information is bucketed under what happened on my site. So it's in the content reports, which is the next section, but I'll make sure to show you some navigation stuff after the traffic sources section. Question? So you want to filter out people who've maybe visited your site 10 or more times. There actually is not a way to do that right now, but there will be in like a month. So sit tight. It's something called unified segments that's coming out. But excellent forward thinking. Okay. All right. So I'm going to, let's see, get back to your question right now with my super awesome demo. Okay. So she asked, things are coming through as organic, referral, direct, and AdWords. Those are all done by default. You don't need to really do anything to set that up. Yay, we don't have to do anything. Okay, but you have to do something if you want something to show up in a customized way. So for instance, let's say you ran like a Bing advertising campaign, or I think it's MSN advertising campaign, or you sent out a marketing email blast and you want to know if people clicked on any of those links. You can set up tags on your URLs, so on your hyperlinks that you would put in the email. You can say, hey, when people click on this hyperlink or this button on my email, I want it to show up as email marketing instead of direct none, so that you can kind of see that. Here's how you would do it. I preloaded this. There's a tool in our help center called the URL Builder. So if you Google URL Builder Analytics, this should come up first. I'm going to put the mic down for just a second and build a URL. So I'm going to type in googlestore.com. Source, I'm going to put New York Cares. Medium, I'm going to put training. And I'm going to call this campaign name Liz. There's a lot more fields that I can put here, but I'm just going to do the basics. And what I've done is I've built a tagged URL. I didn't really have to work too hard, right? No. Okay, so let's say you had 2 links in your marketing email blast. You'd probably tag them both with like email marketing, and then for the campaign name, you can put like top link, side link, or like, just so you can differentiate them a little bit. Then when someone clicks on the link, my site loads as normal. So the customer or user can't really see any difference here. It just shows a difference to Google Analytics. So now if I log back into Google Analytics, I would see in this traffic sources report, New York Cares training, I think I put. Yeah. So now the super awesome part, let's hope it works, is up here there's a real-time report where you can see where people are right now on the site. So unfortunately, maybe if someone else visited from here, I can only see, wait, maybe if I sort it like this. Shoot, I can't see because there's too many of these, but you could see right now if I could show 43 of these instead of 7, you could see me on the site right now from New York Cares /training. So this is cool if you are like launching an email campaign and you press the send button and you just need to decompress for 20 minutes. Load up the analytics real-time report and see how many people are clicking on it. Or just see who's on your site right now. Yeah.
How do I filter out people that are on my site that are part of my organization?
Yes, there is. Okay, so that's kind of going back to an older question. I apologize for like skipping kind of around, but I hope that's okay with everyone. Yep. So this, if you just run a Google search for analytics URL builder, it will be the first thing, hopefully, that comes up. Actually, before I jump to your question, one last use of this URL builder that one of my clients uses that I think is super geeky and cool is, you guys know about QR codes, those little scan things? So they launched like some banners on the New York subway system, and they put QR codes on them, and they tagged them with these analytics tags. And they could actually see which train lines are giving them the most qualified traffic based on people scanning them in and it showing up in their Google Analytics reports. So that's really, really geeky, but if you ever launch a QR code, might as well tag it up so you can see. My boss has them on the back of his business cards. And it's funny to see who's actually using the business cards. Question. If I did a refresh, like
if you go to your Google Online Store, like you see Google, like the stores, like URL, UTM, medium, like we didn't want our people on the site to see all of that.
yeah, so that's okay. So if you can hear this question, see how when the first time I land on that, the landing page, all of that tagged information is visible up here. The next button that they click on, it will drop off, and the tags will still persist like throughout their session. So there isn't a way to like remove them from that very first landing page, but the good news is it's only there for that very first time. Side note, if you've ever clicked on a Groupon button, they have these manual tags, and it cracks me up when my friends like ping me or like IM me them with all the tags on it. I'm like, delete. Anyway, so no, you can't get rid of them on the landing page, but they will drop off naturally as you proceed through the site. One more question. Was there another question over here? Okay, I'm going to jump to the filters. Okay. All right, so quick pause on traffic sources. We're going to get back to that in a second. I'm going to jump to filtering out internal and external traffic, like your employees versus like your not employees. I never showed up here. Oh, well. Okay, should have made you guys do it too next time. Okay, so in the admin section, we haven't seen this yet. There's a bunch of options, and one of them is filters. I'm going to do this on my testing profile that I've called Testo. So I was saying earlier, and this is kind of a weird Google Analytics concept, but in each account, you can, by default, at very first, you'll have one profile, and a profile is all of this stuff we've been looking at with all the data in it. You can make copies of these profiles and add like different filters to them. So one can only show internal employees, or one can show just external traffic, or you can put a filter to show only mobile devices or something like that. But a profile is like a clean copy of all of your data that you can kind of tweak. So sorry if I'm throwing out some lingo, but hopefully that makes some sort of sense. So I'm on a copied profile that I use to mess around for like troubleshooting reasons. So what I would do is add a new filter and call this no employees, or whatever makes sense to you. And exclude traffic from the IP address. And what you would just do is put your company's IP address in this box. If you don't know your company's IP address, I think if you go to whatismyip.com, it tells you it. So a lot of my clients will have a bunch of these IP filters to get rid of their internal traffic, but they'll even go so far as to exclude their like homes because they work from home sometimes. So it depends on how much you work from home or like how detailed you want it to be. Does that make sense? And for the vice versa, if you wanted to make a separate profile for only your employees, you can go include only traffic from, you know, that IP address. And if I could caution you on this, just one thing that potentially could go wrong is filters are permanent. These filters are permanent. You can't like undo them. So if you accidentally put include only traffic from my employees on your only profile, you'll lose a lot of data until you realize that you're losing a lot of data and you unapply it. So it's important to like test out all of your new filters on like copied profiles. Good. Okay. Did you have a question? So if you have a large amount of employees, so normally at a company, there will be one IP address that's shared. Yeah, so then it would be, then you're right, you would need to do a bunch of these individually because I'm sure each student is accessing from their own computers and own IP addresses. There's fancier things that you could do to make that easier, and maybe if we have extra time, I'll just tell you after because it's probably customized to your site. Yeah, remind me though. Okay. All right, so that was a little sidebar into filters, but let's go back to traffic sources real quick. So right now, all we know is people coming to our site, what source and medium they're coming from. You can get even more detailed, so I'm going to go to organic real quick. And it shows you a list of all the keywords that they're typing into any search engine that results in a visit to my site. So what would you do with this? Let's say you're building an AdWords account, and you're like me. The first time I built an AdWords account, I was like, oh gosh, what should I put as my keyword list? Like that was the hardest thing to get started. So what you could do here is look at these that are already there. Maybe sort it by ones that are performing well for you or giving you good engagement, and then adding those as initial keyword list. I'm sure someone has a question about this screen, about maybe the first #1 most popular keyword being not provided. No one? Okay. All right, I'll just tell you the answer because you might ask me later. Not provided is an update that most browsers have made about a year ago for like privacy reasons. Whereas if someone is searching on like an HTTPS www.bing.com or HTTPS www.google.com, it won't provide the keyword. It will provide everything else, but it won't provide the keyword. It's not a problem with Google Analytics. It's going to happen on any tracking product that you come across, but it's just a security update, and there's other ways to get the keyword details out. So there you go. You're going to see not provided because most people are defaulting to secure search. Yeah.
We use like private browsing, is that?
That's a hilarious question. So the question was, if people are using private browsing like incognito window, does that affect Google Analytics? Now we'll need to like recheck this, but last time I checked, if you're in an incognito browser, you're not HTTPS by default. So in fact, Google Analytics gets more information than if you were not on an incognito window. I don't know if they've changed that, so I'll definitely need to double check that. But other than that, an incognito browser will always show up as a new visitor because it clears your cookies every time you close the browser. We just said cookies. Okay, yeah.
Is there a general global sense of how much that is affecting the statistics?
So the question was, is there a general amount, like percentage that you see this happen? I always say it really depends on what type of site you have. So you just want to go log into yours and take the number of not provided and divide it by the total, and that's your personal percentage. The reason why I never throw out like a blanket number is we have a ton of different clients that I work with, and like someone who is probably a nonprofit is going to have way different amounts of this than like one of our adult clients or something. So it really just depends on what type of industry it is.
But I guess that was going more towards the new and returning users.
Oh, new and returning?
Yes, whether over time, there's been a real shift so that the results you're getting aren't necessarily represented. That is, it looks a lot more like there are many more new users. In fact,
They're returning. Okay, that's a good question. So has there been a pattern over time of new and returning users? So she's raising the point, I believe, about a new visitor or a returning visitor is someone who's come from the same device on the same browser, which as people download more browsers, or as they get a laptop and a corporate one and a tablet and a phone, that is all showing up as new users. And using incognito with the invention of incognito. So yeah, probably over time, because like 10 years ago, you just had your parents or you just had their home computer. There probably has been a shift over time on more new visitors. And some companies are, Google Analytics is starting to work on that of piecing cross-device together, but it's not there yet. So right now, there is a small shift in increasing new visitors. Question?
Is there a way of identifying in private your browsing session?
Nope, not by default. I'm thinking right now of ways to like customize code that, but maybe we can brainstorm afterwards. But out of the box by default, no. Okay, so we've noted our keywords. We've noted our source and mediums, which is like Google organic, YouTube referral. Let's go into social real quick. Let's go into network referrals. Okay, so Google Analytics has classified like 400 or something social sites. Did you even know that there were 400 social sites? Okay, well, so these are the ones that we've classified as being considered social. So by default, we'll push these all into a social report. So this makes the question of which social website should I spend my time on first? Here, YouTube might be one, except for we kind of noticed maybe the bounce rate was bad. After that would be Google Plus and Twitter. They're killing Facebook. So maybe what I'll do is start tweeting more about my yo-yos that I'm selling. Or building out a Google Plus page to refer more qualified traffic. Some of these even have like a lot of detailed information, like ones that have partnered with us, have the actual shared URL. So if someone's on Google Plus and they say, hey, check out this link, and they like post it on someone's page or whatever, you can actually see that show up in the reports. So there's a lot of other like information here in these social reports. One that I think is very interesting is what are actually like, what are they saying about you? Like, what is the post? And this only goes when people have like opted into it and it's like one of our partners. But it's interesting to see here because like I'll read one. Does Google Store ship to India yet? We would like to order as long as you ship here. So maybe this helps you get ideas. Like if I don't know if the Google Store ships to India, but maybe if we do, we should add that, like maybe a section on our shipping information, like ships to, and then a list of countries. Or if I were like, my whole job was replying to social posts, I could note this and like tweet that I ship or whatever. You know what I mean? Question. Yep. So these, I don't know what this little icon is, and I'm sure you can't see. Reddit? You guys are brilliant. Okay, so these are people logged into their Google Plus or Reddit or some of our partner sites who've opted into this who are posting about the Google store. Yep. I know a company actually uses this to reply to anything that they'd like to respond to publicly. So if there's a post about like, hey, I had a bad experience and blah, 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 then they'll actually post back, find that post and post back to them. That's probably like really, you'd have to have a lot of time to do that, but anyways.
I'm sorry, how did you get to this screen again?
So I went to social and then data hub activity.
Okay, that's separate from the main page.
Yep, yep. Noted again, there's a bunch of data here. There's a bunch to look at. So we'll need to prioritize. Maybe we'll make a checklist at the end so that you guys aren't overwhelmed with stuff. Okay, and then the last major traffic source thing I wanted to show you is the AdWords reports. So quick show, I know there was an AdWords section like a month ago. Who here has an AdWords account? A little less than half. Okay, so with nonprofits, Google offers free like AdWords advertising. If you have like a 501c3 status or something, I'm not the best at AdWords anymore, but if you have that, you get like $10,000 a month or something crazy on free advertising. So if you ever take advantage of that, this will be a cool section for you to check back in and see how those campaigns are working. There's a linking process. So you have like an AdWords account ID, and in the admin section, there's like admin, data sources, AdWords, and then a link button. There's a pretty good help article with screenshots of the step-by-step process, but good point. You actually have to set up a one-time, like press a couple buttons and link the two together to get all the data in here. Okay, so let's just look at, so we know kind of the Liz strategy of optimizing. If we were looking at the keywords report, we could see which one's giving me the most money, the lowest bounce rate, the highest time on site, and then maybe bid more on those. But you're bored with that analysis tactic, so I'm going to show you one other one. Right now what I'm looking at is the day parting report. And day parts is someone's idea of what time of day did someone come to my site. Don't know why, but it's probably been there for a while. Anyways, so this is in military time. Hopefully you're okay with military time. And what it shows you is how many people are coming in a certain hour of day, how are they spending during a certain hour of the day. Let me actually flip to that e-commerce tab at the top, because I care somewhat about money. And I like this bang for my buck column, which is per visit value. So on average, how much money do I make per visit? And I'm going to sort it again, so highest to lowest. And you don't want to get too granular, like by exact hour, but you want to try to look for a trend. And let's just pretend, because I'm not going to stare at this too long, let's just pretend that I get my highest amount of bang for my buck during like business hours and maybe a couple hours after. But let's say, and let's look at the lowest, it's like late hours of the night, like 10 p.m. to like midnight or something. So in your actual AdWords account, there's a setting, it's called ad scheduling, I think, that allows you to bid up and bid down on certain times a day. So what you would do is identify that trend and say, hey, I'm not going to spend more money, not asking you to spend more money, just say, I'm going to take 10% of my spend from these poor performing times and push it into my high performing times. Question? The question was, what's the time zone? It's the time on the person's browser, which if you're being, like if you're a global company, this time zone is, okay, wait, I think I misspoke. This time zone is in whatever I set up my account to be. So this is actually in Pacific time. So if someone was visiting, oh, I'm the worst at time zone. If someone was visiting from New York right now at 11, it would show up as 8 a.m. in this report. So if you're really getting nitty gritty with time zones and you have like a national campaign, you might want to add those filters in there, like those advanced segments to say, okay, show me all the East Coast states, Central Time Zone states, Mountain Time Zone states, and Pacific states, and then do your analysis. But that's really like time consuming, and you might just want to like say, all right, let's take the average. It's up to you. Question.
Without AdWords, like break it down by hour.
Question was, can you do this not in the AdWords report? Yes, you can. It's a custom report, so maybe that's the one I'll demo when we get to that section. This one's just there by default. I'm not sure why they don't have it in the regular reports by default, but yes, you can see it for all traffic as well.
So if you were to do it, like, I want to see what it was in person and then like 6 months ago or.
Brilliant question. I sometimes forget some of these really sweet features, so thank you for reminding me. Okay, so her question was, how do you see how it compares over time? And I'm going to take this further. How does it compare versus the other hours? So we haven't really explored this section, but right here on the right-hand side above the tables, there's a bunch of different graph options. I'm kind of geeky and I just like the table, but there's like visual people out there in the world that like this compare to site average. So I can quickly see, I care about, let's see, per visit value, bang for the buck. That's what I always care about. And I can see really quickly the ones that are rising above the others. You can do this for any reports, like the traffic sources report, the states or cities report. So that's comparing dimensions versus each other versus like the site average. But I think your question was more towards how are you trending over time? So in the top right-hand corner, I have a date range picker. And it always just goes to last 30 days, but you can easily customize it. And there's a checkbox that will default you to compare to previous period. So if I apply that, really quickly my graph will show me, whoa, my visits have jumped by 1,400%. This is because we had a technical issue. Usually it won't be that big, but one thing that a lot of companies look at is going back to that mobile overview report, which was just mobile yes, mobile no. Is mobile trending up over time? Because it almost always is. And that way when your boss says, oh, let's not care about mobile because it's only 5% of traffic, you can say, well, last month it was only 2% of traffic, so it's gone up by 250%. Mental math. Was that your question? Yeah? Okay. So you can see, and sorry for the bogus data here, but you can see it broken down by each individual dimension if you want to get that detailed. All right, I'm going to take it off, though, just to not overwhelm us with that much data. Okay, the last thing I might show is this concept called matched search queries. So in AdWords, there are a bunch of keyword match types, like broad match, phrase match, and exact match. So let's say you're bidding on the keyword, actually, let's say you were like New York Cares or something. That was your website. And you were bidding for like volunteer in New York City was a keyword that you were bidding on. And you bid on broad match. What that means, and this is just a side AdWords lesson, is you probably already know this. Someone could type in like volunteer my time volunteering in New York City. That was not the exact keyword, but it was close enough so my ad would show. Someone could say something like volunteer broken cell phones to New York City, which doesn't really fit in with what New York Cares does that I know of. But that would be an example where your ad might show up and it didn't really make sense to show up. There's a lot more crazy examples that I've seen before, but the point is this match search query report doesn't show you the actual keywords you're bidding on. Rather, it shows you what they've typed in that caused your ad to show. So it's a slight difference in concept. And the point of this report is that there's a negative keyword section in AdWords that allows you to block your ad from showing on certain keywords. So going back to that New York Cares example, let's say they only have X amount of money to spend on a day and they're hitting it, they'd want to add a negative keyword of maybe like cell phones or like donate cell phones as to not spend money on that. to open up the money on things that do matter. Yeah.
A little bit of an aside, there's so much here. You had to explain match search,
Yep.
and I was trying to use this. I said, what the hell is a match search?
Yep.
What's the easiest way to get an explanation of any part of it?
Good question. So you guys don't all know Google Analytics jargon. I do because I work in it, but you probably won't know all these by heart. So they try to offer two like in product help. Next to some of these, occasionally you'll see a little question mark icon. It's not coming up here. And when you hover over it, a yellow pop-up box will show up explaining what it is. I actually don't see any of those right now. But the second option, maybe I'll go to like traffic sources real quick, see if it shows up. Nope, boo. Okay, the second thing that will sometimes happen is down in the bottom left, you'll see relevant Help Center articles based on the report that you're on. So then you can, hopefully, if we've done it right, you'll see the first article being match search query, like a definition. If both of those fail, which in this case happened, the question mark bubble and the Help Center article didn't appear. In the top right corner, there's this help icon that when you click it, you can search the Help Center. And then you just type in match search query, and hopefully the first thing that comes up will help you understand what that is. We do. Yeah, we do. Okay, so let's go back. Is there anything else here? Okay, I'll skip the rest of this traffic sources for now, because, yeah, question. Yep.
So you know, obviously, when you're managing your AdWords campaigns, you do that in AdWords, in your AdWords.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get like where do you get this data just in terms of what's showing up in AdWords versus what you're seeing in Google AdWords?
Yeah. So hopefully I answered this right. Do you see the same data in your AdWords account that you do in your analytics account?
Yeah, I remember somebody saying that across the data in AdWords.
Yeah. Yep. So let's say I have one AdWords account and I link it to Google Analytics. I have like 3 campaigns. In Google AdWords, you might see that you had like 50 clicks. And in Google Analytics, you might see that you had like 55 visits from that campaign. And then you might say like, why would I have more visits than clicks? There's a bunch of these like random reasons why they aren't going to exactly line up, but they should be about like 10% variance with each other. So just a couple that I'll throw out there. This is definitely not something you need to memorize, but there's an invalid click detector in AdWords. So if it didn't seem like a legitimate click, it won't count as a click and they don't charge you. But in analytics, it will be a visit just because we don't have that same filter. Or if someone clicks your ad and then just repeatedly like visits, that can cause more visits in analytics than it would in AdWords. Or on the vice versa, what if there's more clicks than visits? You might have a filter set up to like filter out your employee traffic and maybe they accidentally clicked on an ad. Or someone had like Java or like cookies blocked on their browser settings. So anyways, boring. It should be very, very close to each other, but I would be shocked if it was ever spot on. Is that what you were asking? So which one should you trust? They should be so close that it shouldn't really matter. If they're ever more than like 15 to 20% off, then you might want to contact like someone and get help figuring out if there's a setting wrong or something. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on. So I don't want to run out of time. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've done 2 of the reports. Audience, we know who they are. We know what devices. We know what cities. Traffic sources, we know what sources, what social networks, what keywords they're coming from. So let's move on to content, which is what did they actually do on my site. So this has information about which pages did they visit, which were the landing pages, which pages did they exit from, how did they navigate through my site, which I know was a question earlier. So the like regular report here is just the pages report. And this shows a list of like the request URIs, which is pretty much whatever occurred after googlestore.com. So the home page, if it's just a slash, will show up as a slash in this report. If it's googlestore.com/hello will show up in this report. If these don't really make sense to you, there's also a page title option, which if your webmaster has named your pages accordingly, this might be a bit easier to look at. It's not in like, I don't know, URL structure. Question? You put the tracking code on every single page of the site. The good news is it goes in the head section, which is almost always a shared template across all pages. So they pretty much copy and paste once and it should push out. I mean, you'll need to confirm that with your webmaster, but it's usually not like a mass copy, paste. Question?
The title here is the head.
Yep. Okay, so this is actually let's skip to like landing pages real quick. All right. So this must be a prank our engineers are playing on us that my #1 landing page is foo.html. I don't know why. But anyways, what you might want to do here is say, hey, what's the most common first page that someone's landing on my site? I think you probably want it to be your home page because that's probably what you've structured out to like make sense to someone who hasn't been there before. But what you might want to do is look at that new visitor segment and make sure that whatever their first landing page on is actually makes sense. Because in the case of the Google store, it really wouldn't make sense for new visitors to just all of a sudden land on my yo-yos page because like they probably aren't all looking for yo-yos. Or my shipping policy page. That doesn't make sense either. So what you want to do is just check in on here from time to time and make sure, one, that these are making sense. And if they aren't making sense, either fix your page content to try to make that more logical for the user, or figure out which traffic source is driving people to land on this weird landing page and see if you can work with them to adjust it. All right, let's go to something cooler. Okay, this is really cool. You guys ready? All right. Site search terms. Oh, shoot, I don't have any data. Let me see if I can pull this back and have data. Yeah, okay. What am I in? Oh, Testo. I'm in my test account. I forgot to switch back. Okay, go to the regular one. Sorry, demo fail. Okay, so let's say I'm on the Google store. Okay, here we go. So I'm a user. I've gone to the Google store and I want to buy socks. I could just navigate through the site and try to find wearables, maybe other, and socks, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to type in socks in my internal site search. Yes, these YouTube socks, perfect, and then I buy. They're only $7. Okay, so this report here, internal site search terms, would show, what did I search for? Socks. It would show that actual search term here. So this is different because it's not what keyword were they using on Google or Yahoo to get to my site. This is they're already on my site and they're trying to find something specific. What is it? So this only applies to you if on your site you have some sort of search functionality. But this is a great report because it can help you figure out if people want something that you don't offer, then you might want to start offering it. Or you can add them as negative keywords if you're never going to offer it. So for example, and this is fabulous, the number 2 and 4 and 6 search results on my site are for Nexus, which is Google's cell phone. And we don't sell that on the Google store. There's a whole separate site for it. And I keep telling the Google store people to like put a link to the phone store, but they don't. Well, that's a separate discussion. But anyways, this will help you figure out how to lead users to get to what they want. It's a goldmine of information because they're literally telling you what they want by typing it in. I know you guys aren't like a retail store, but this really helps our retail people figure out what to start selling next. But maybe for you, it's like what volunteering opportunities to index or partner with. Question.
You use just the standard Google site search, you put on your site, and then it takes you to the Google page that shows the results just with your site.
I don't know how that
You
works.
show up an internal site search that shows up as referral.
I would need to look at that. I actually don't know. I think there's an integration where you can log into your Google customized search and put your analytics account number. I think, yeah. We would need to, maybe we can look into that if we have extra time. But it should, I mean, Google integrates with Google. I hope it should be pretty easy.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any site search.
Aha. Well, we'll look into that. I'm sure it has to be an option somewhere. But a couple other cool things you can see about this. There are some search-related metrics in the column, like percent search exits or percent search refinements, or how many pages they have to go through before they give up or leave or find something. So if you rely heavily on site search, I would definitely recommend looking at this to make sure that you're indexing things properly and that people are in fact finding what they're looking for. Question in the back. Yeah, so her question was, how do you know if people are clicking on my like headers or like the wearables button? And how do you know if you should keep these versus just rely on a search box? Experience tells me that I should have both because people like to do things differently on the site. Yes, by default, you can see, like if I clicked on wearables, I would get to this page, Google plus redesign wearables. And I could just search for it in my pages report. I set my date range back to like a year. Oops. So if I search for it, it should pop up. Well, probably put an extra space or something. But anyways, you can see a certain page, how many times people have clicked on it. I'm not sure what I'm typing in wrong here, but that is done by default. She brings up a good question of, should you rely on this type of layout or a different type of layout? One example I would probably say is, do people prefer browsing with a top like nav bar or a side nav bar? Or maybe a right side nav bar versus a left side nav bar? Or do people like a white background or maybe like a light gray background? Or do they like the word wearables or do they like clothes? Because to me, I don't even know who came up with wearables. But anyways, this is a good question on like website optimization. So this is I think probably a huge thing I would say that you guys should be using. I know there's a lot that Google's throwing at you, but this is a new feature we launched called content experiments. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't need to track my website activity, and you're like blah blah snoozing, wake up, because this is a bit different than tracking website activity. This is actually optimizing the content on your website. So let's just take an easy example, a white background versus a gray background on my home page or on all the pages of my site, something. What I would do is call up my webmaster and say, hey, will you make a copy of my home page and call it /home test or something, and make that have a light gray background? He says, sure, done. That easy. Then you go to create experiment and say, I want to test my homepage, googlestore.com. Start the experiment. Then you can say, okay, I'm going to call this test gray. I want to optimize against money, which gives me the most money. You can choose anything. You can choose bounce rate or goal or time spent on site. And I want to only risk, I think gray is risky, so I'm going to only target half the people just because I'm, playing it safe. And yes, please email me when there's a winner. Yes, this is my email address. Okay, next. So then you just enter the test page or your original page, and you type in the test page, which was, I think I said test gray, my webmaster made it, /test gray. You have to actually make sure this page exists, but assuming it is, I'm going to call it variation 1 gray so I don't forget. Next, mine will probably throw me an error that this page doesn't exist because I just made it up in my head, but let's just skip that. Next, start. I know it has errors because I just made it up. Okay, it's launched. So now in my experiment list, I'll see test gray. And this is going to have no data, obviously, because I just launched it and this gray page doesn't really exist. But what you will see, and I don't have any good demo, I'm sorry, I should have thought ahead, but you'll see the traffic split between my home page, my original white background and my gray background. And it will show me over time which one's the most likely to win. It does statistics for you, like percent confidence interval of win or something like that. It will tell you when it's declared a statistically significant winner. So in the case where gray actually won, I would call up that webmaster and say, all right, pull the trigger, we're having gray backgrounds on things. Question?
Do you do a survey to determine that?
A survey?
To determine which color is preferable?
In this case, it's not a survey. It's actually, once you launch the experiment, on half the time, so like 20%, 25% of the time, it will actually show the gray background, and it picks them at random, like the Google Analytics engine picks it at random, and it will show half the people in my experiment the gray background and half the white, and it will actually track who's doing more of what I said. So in this case, revenue, like who's spending more on the site. So you never survey the people. Depending, it's just randomly showing them one version versus the other and seeing which one works better. So the good news about this is like it's totally data-driven website optimization. It's not a survey because you might have survey like response bias. It's not you just picking your favorite color. Some analytics people call this the HIPPO method or the highest paid person's opinion method. It's actually all done by data. And the reason why I brought this up is because I think probably all of you have newer sites, or maybe some of you have newer sites, and this is a great way to actually test to see how different layouts or colors or messaging works on the site. I'm tying this back to your original question. Should you have a top nav? Should you rely just on search? If you wanted to run that experiment, you could run it with a small amount of traffic and see how they each work instead of just scratching your head and kind of making a guess. So yeah, it's not survey. It's totally just done by actual data. Question?
Like what period of time is this? And if you can customize that, how do you determine like how much time you need?
Yeah, so how much time and can you customize it? It runs, I think the minimum it has to run is like 2 days, but it will declare a winner faster if you have more traffic and if the results are drastically different. It will declare winners slower or not at all if you have really low site traffic and the difference between the two is minimal. So it definitely depends how long it will take. I don't know if there's an option to customize it, but we're looking to customize like having a minimum because a lot of people have different traffic patterns by day of the week, and they were like, oh, it just totally depends on which day we launch this. So we're looking to build it out because it's new, but as of right now, I'm not sure if the minimum time is out yet, but you can't customize like the date so far as I know of. Question? Was that yours?
Could your variations be broader than just a background color? Could you have two entirely separate home pages and then you could compare photographs of certain people against others and how that's reflecting how many people click through your site?
Yep. So her question was, what how much difference can you make in your tests? Like, does it have to just be as simple as a background? Can it be more? It can be completely different home pages if you want it to be. Now, with that being said, we typically advise against doing completely different home pages, and the reason for that is because it's hard to tell which specific difference drove the better success. I mean, maybe at first you'd want to start with 2 mocks, and then from there start just tweaking small pieces at a time. Also, there's another option which maybe I would recommend for you is, and you can do more than just an A versus B. You can do A versus B versus C versus D and launch 4 at once and have them all alternate. So that way, if you have multiple mocks, you can do them all at once. Question?
It redirects to different pages, or it's all the same URL?
So it redirects to the different pages. So in my example, googlestore.com and then googlestore.com/testgray. It will alternate between that. Question?
To follow up on that, if you then decide test grade didn't work, what do you, like, do you then have to run your web server redirecting everything that's from test grade back to make sure that, like, if somebody got the variation and bookmarked it, or just in the browser history, then this is a full URL, how
Yep.
kind of does it?
Yep, I'm just going to repeat this for the mic's sake. What happens when testgray loses? What happens to that page? Well, you probably would want to do exactly what you said, is just redirect that to the home page and turn off the experiment. And the only case in which anyone would be able to access the testgray page is if they bookmarked it, or if they just have it saved in their browser history. It shouldn't be a huge problem, but to tie up loose ends, you'd probably want to redirect it back to the regular home
Would a
page.
search engine ever be redirected to non-A?
It shouldn't be.
So like Google will never index test query until it's actually launched.
Correct, yeah. You can also, this is really geeky, but you can put the robots.txt file on your test page so that it's certainly not indexed. That's just a organic search way of preventing an engine from ever indexing a page. That's super tying up loose ends, but I like your thoughts. Yes?
Can you explain how the main navigation is used site-wide? That is, it's pretty much persistent, top navigation is persistent, as opposed to just looking at that page by page.
Great question. Great question. Okay. All right. Let's get to this last report here called in-page analytics, which sometimes my in-page analytics likes to fight with me, but hopefully we'll play nice with each other today. So I just went to this report and I clicked on my home page. Now, if this loads for me, what it's going to show is a click heat map. So it will actually display what this page is and say X% nuts. See, it always does this to me when I'm presenting, but it should show you like 10% of people, I'm going to click out of this, clicked on office, 5% of people clicked on fun. So you can see a visual heat map of click percentages, and I think this is really easy to look at.
But when you're doing that, is that across the whole site? Are the stats that you're getting on your top navigation applicable to whatever page they were on? Or if you're on your home page, it's only showing you what they're on your home page.
Yes. Okay, so the question is, if I have a nav, the top nav, say, on every page of my site, she wants to know, I think, how it's used by people on the home page versus I want to see maybe how it's used across the entire site in general.
And or statistically an average for across the whole site.
So I would need to think more about that question, but everything that I've shown you is how is it used on the page in question. There's probably a way to get it like site-wide or on average, but that it's not in like a default report. Question.
I think I've seen it this way before, where if you have, say you have the top nav and the sidebar, you have to the same page, going from the same page. These are URL based, not linked.
Yep.
It's not a click target
Yeah, there's, okay, so this is, okay, all right, I'll answer this question. Okay, let me go jump back to my actual site real quick. So let's say I have a link to outerwear on my top nav and a link to outerwear on my left nav. If I look at just the /outerwear page, I can't really tell if they've gotten there from the top versus the left. So what people normally do is add a parameter. I'm sorry if I'm getting too, I was trying to keep this high level, but it might be too specific. But what you would do is say, hey, when I'm coding in this page and I put this top nav outerwear button, I put the tag as /outerwear top nav. And the question marks don't affect how a page loads. It just affects what's sent to Google Analytics. And then similarly on the left-hand nav, I would say when someone clicks this button, take it to /outerwear left nav. And then in Google Analytics, you'll be able to see the split of who's clicking on the top versus the left nav. And that's not something that's like Google Analytics in specific. That's more of like how you want to use your, or like tag your website. But anyways, that's how you would do it. Okay, I'm going to just jump really quick because I want to leave time for a couple more cool things. E-commerce, goals, and multi-channel funnels. I'm going to go kind of quickly through these because I'm running out of time. But if you have donations on your site, you can set this up to track the actual donation amount so that like what I was looking at earlier, you can get revenue metrics. Goals, you can set up a goal. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But then once you set those up, you get a lot of reports available to you. Let's go with goal flow. Let me click on that. So let's say you guys have like a sign up to be a member form, or like a contact me right and I'll get back to you form. What you can do is set up a goal for that contact page. So hey, count it as a goal when everyone reached the like /confirmation page. And then you can even set up a funnel for like, hey, someone reached this page and then this page and then this page, so that you can see maybe where they're dropping off. So in this example, I'm looking at like completed an order, so I can see how people dropped off on a cart page versus probably dropping off at the billing page versus the shipping page. So let me show you how you would set up a goal real quick. This is in the admin section. I'm going to do it in my profile called Testo. So we were here earlier looking at filters, and now we're going to look at goals. So this is so easy in Google Analytics because it doesn't require any code or anything. You can just do it in 5 seconds. So I'm going to press create a goal, and then it gives me a lot of choices. Probably the most common choice is reached a certain page on my site, which would be like the purchase complete, or we've received your inquiry, or something like that. Or maybe they've stayed longer than 5 minutes, or viewed more than 5 pages. So let's say I'm going to do checkout complete or something next. I'm going to do a destination goal next. And then I want it to be my /thank you page. And you have to like find what that page is on your site. So maybe submit a test lead to yourself and look at what's in the URL and then paste it right here and say, this is my goal page. The easier ones are just like pages per visit. You just type in, if they've hit more than 5, count them as a goal. Or like if they stayed more than 2 minutes, count them as a goal. So those are even easier. You don't even need to know which page is your goal page. So goals are pretty easy. Okay, the last, or I said I'd do custom reports. Okay, so let's see here. We have done all of these 5 reports. We've done real-time, audience, content, traffic sources, and conversions. And you're probably, I'm hoping, saying, that should cut it. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of reports. But for those of you who need to see additional information, or simply just don't like the lay of the land or how we've laid out our reports, there's a custom customization section where you can build your own custom reports. So I can say, and this was a question actually asked earlier, how do I see hour of day breakout by all traffic sources, not just AdWords? That's not a standard report. So I can create it by myself. Now, before I actually go into this, a word of caution. I think if you're a basic analytics user, like haven't used it a lot before, you probably don't need to do this because it's probably available in a standard report. With that being said, for this specific example, you would do hour and then visits. And I only have these memorized because I've just done this for a while. And I'll call this hour of day. Oh, whatever. Okay, save. And now it will show me a basic report from all traffic sources of visits by hour of day. So the only other reason why I would recommend for you to use these custom reports is something that we kind of touched on earlier. If you're just getting overwhelmed with too many metrics, or it's just too much stuff to look at once. So for example, let's take that cities report. Geo, location. All right. Let's say I only care about visits and bounce rate. And I don't like those 3 middle columns. I don't want to look at them because they just bug me. What I can do is go to customization and build that custom report by scratch. But I'm lazy and I'm showing you a shortcut. You can click this customize button and it will pre-build that report for you. And then you can just exit out of, I don't care about this, I don't care about this, I don't care about this, I don't care about goals or e-commerce. I don't know why that's there twice. Save. And then I've got more of a simplified report. So the two main uses for a custom report, probably number one use is just simplification. And number two would be in the rare case where we haven't had a preset report for you. So anyway, a couple more things before we go just to straight Q&A is back in the regular reports, there's a couple options here at the top. A scheduled email. So if you are maybe predicting that you won't remember to log in, frequently, you can schedule these to be emailed to you as a reminder of pay attention to this. You can schedule it weekly, monthly, daily. Don't do daily. I've done that to myself. I'm like, where is this coming from? You can send it to more than just yourself. Okay. There's export options. So if you want to export it to a PDF, it's really a pretty printout. If you want to do more data analysis, you can shoot it into a spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet. Okay, so this is probably one thing you should do. So break my heart, but you probably won't remember everything we talked about today. I have to get over it. Okay, so what I would recommend doing is maybe while this is fresh in your mind this week, if you're even interested in it, play around in an account if you have one, and find and build either a custom report that's basic that you like, or find a standard report that you thought was like really powerful for you, and hit this shortcut button, which is pretty much like a bookmark on a browser. And then in your shortcut section, you can see all of the top ones that you like to see, and they'll always be there for you. That's because you probably won't remember to go to traffic sources, organic, keywords, whatever the reports are. You can just bookmark it straight there and then just never have to find it again. So that's important. Okay, question?
So if you save to build a custom report, is that how you can save your custom report to return back to it on a regular basis?
So the question was, is that how you return to a custom report? No, custom reports are separate, so those will always be saved in the customization tab. So these 6 that are here are ones that I've already created, and they just get saved right in this area. However, let's say I really liked that hour of day that I totally spelled wrong. I can also shortcut it if you just want to keep things organized. and then it will be here too. So you can shortcut a standard report or a custom report. Just, I mean, whatever is easiest for you. Question?
Might be a little off topic, but what happens when you have the main website and then maybe donation page is on a different server or provider, say BlackRock, and then maybe you're using email communication from some other group and you want to see how all of that connects?
Yeah. So the question is, like, what if your e-commerce or donation is on a third party? It's not on your site. Or if you connect with a different vendor for like email marketing or something. The good news is Google Analytics, I think, is used by like 90% of websites. I made that up, but it's something like that. So a lot of major third-party sites like e-commerce providers or marketing people have pre-done integrations with Google Analytics. So the first thing I would do is give them a call and say, hey, do you have an integration with Google Analytics? Normally it's as easy as, yes, we do. What's your account number? You send it to them and then it will work just like that. If they don't, then it's a little bit more complicated. There's a big nasty answer to like third-party processing. It's called cross-domain tracking. It's not that bad. It just involves like extra code that I hate when things involve extra code. So the options are there, but usually all big vendors integrate naturally with Google Analytics. So that's what I would ask first. And if not, then maybe give us a shout out and ask us what's the next step. Okay, so that I think, no wait, I'll demo. Okay, so now, all right, hopefully I've got you hooked on Google Analytics. I didn't even show you how to get started yet. If you're hooked on it and you're ready to get started, here's a quick demo of how to actually do it. I'm going to do it in a different window so you can see it from scratch. So you would go to Google. It's this easy. We're going to do it in like 5 minutes tops. Google.com/analytics. If you have a Google account, it doesn't need to be like Gmail, but just any Google account, you can press sign in or sign up. If you've never created an account before, you'll be instantly popped into a creation screen. If you have created an account before, then you need to go to admin, new account. But at this point, we're all on the same screen. So this is the like creation screen you'll be on if you don't have an account. So this was your question before. Tracking a website versus an app is totally different code. So for all of us, we're going to choose website. And for website name, let's say I'm a bakery. So I'm going to call it Bakery Liz Yum. And my website is www.liz.com. It's not. I'm making this up. Industry category, this is optional. I'm just going to leave it like this. Time zone, this is something we touched on. I'm going to put Eastern. An account name, this is just for you, so Liz Yum. I'm going to keep all these, whatever. Okay, I accept. That wasn't too bad, right? And all of a sudden, I've got this magic piece of code that I'm going to send to my webmaster to put on the site. Now, there used to be an option that I could literally press email and then type in their email address, but I don't know why we got rid of that. But anyways, what you would do is just copy this and go to your email, paste it in, and then say, please put this on every page of my site. There's like instructions here somewhere. Oh, sorry, we just updated this, so they've forgotten the instructions. But yeah, I'm sorry, what did you say? Here it is. It shows you where to put it. So like where on the site to put it. If you guys have like a webmaster who's not like in your company, like you hire someone, they should know hopefully where to put it. If not, there's like a quick article in the help center of like install code or something, like get started guide. You can send that to them too on where to actually put it. But literally they just copy this and paste it. The only thing that's different per account is this line that's really minuscule that has my actual account number. It's like UA-4 whatever and my site. So it's the same piece of code on every page, put it on, and then you've got, I think, everything that we've talked about today. So that wasn't too hard. I think it's easier than creating an AdWords account, right? There's other admin stuff you can do, like creating those copied profiles and adding filters. You can set up those goals pretty easily. There's a users tab up here where you can add like your coworkers to also be able to see the account, which I would advise to do in case you go on vacation or something. So the setup is pretty easy. There's a couple admin options. Oh, and if you have an AdWords account, to link it to that too. Okay. I think that's all I had on my schedule. So questions, yeah. So yeah, so the question was, let's say you have a blog on Tumblr. This is a good question. So I think Tumblr, in the admin settings, they give you a space where you can just put in your account number. It's kind of like those vendors that usually have an integration. I'm almost positive that that's the case. Then you would just copy this account number and paste it into your Tumblr settings. Now, a little bit more of like a tactical approach to this is if I put this account number on my Liz Bakery Yum site and on my Tumblr blog, data from both will come into the same account. So maybe what you want to do is create two accounts, one for Tumblr and one for the site, so that the data goes separately, because you probably don't want to get confused on both. You know what I mean? Most companies will have a different one for even their own blog versus their regular site. Some companies even have, if they have like a completely different mobile optimized site, they'll have two accounts, one for their desktop site and one for their mobile site, just because the navigation is so different, the user experience is so different. So it's up to you, but I would probably recommend, if you have a Tumblr site and a regular site, that you just do this twice and then use the second account number. Question?
You said you can create different users. Can you create like a user to sign into a profile that only shows certain things? They can't have access to all your analytics, but just like one.
Yeah, so the question was kind of like locking down your data for specific users. And I totally recommend doing this for that reason and others. So I keep talking about profiles. So I just created my first one that's all website data. I'm going to make a clean copy right now that is maybe just like US only data, or in a case where we talked about employees excluded or something. Create. So now, just so you can see, I have two clean copies. They're going to have the same data until I like filter one. But even without that, you can go to, let's say, the US only tab, users. So right now it's just me. I'm the power admin, mwahaha. So let's say my mom was interested. She's helping me in this bakery, but I love my mom. She's not the best at computers. So if I wanted to give her access to see the data, I would make her a user. Even though I want to show her all the data, I don't want her to accidentally delete this account. Like, she probably wouldn't, but just in case, you can make people a user, which allows them to see just like the data, but not like changing your admin settings, like not changing a filter, not changing a goal, not deleting anything, whatever. Once you add a user, so I'm going to add her, Sue. Yep. Okay. All right, that was spelled wrong, but whatever. Okay, add. Oh, it knew. All right. Can't spell my own name. All right, so now I've added her, and I've only added her to this US only profile. If I wanted to like pick and choose which ones, I could like pop her into all profiles, but yes. So let's say, for example, you had a profile that had sensitive information, like only your AdWords data or AdWords spend data, and you didn't want everyone in the world to see it. you just create a separate profile, exclude out that sort of money information, and then just put them as a user to only that profile. Question? Mm. Yeah, good question. Okay, so just for everyone else, let's say there's a lead form that when you are finished and you press the submit button, you're back at the home page, or you're not on a thank you page, you're maybe just on the same page. How do you track that? Because I was showing you an example of where you put the thank you page in as the goal. So there is a solution for this. Unfortunately, it does involve extra code, but what you would do, and it's not even that, it's not that tricky. There's a piece of code where you say, hey, track whenever someone pushes the submit button. So it's like on click of the submit button, track this as an event called, then you can make this part up, clicked the submit button, and then you'd set that event up as a goal. So just a quick, let me show you what this would look like. In the goal creation screen, we were looking at the URL destination option. There's another one called event. So two steps to answer that question is, one, you need to have your webmaster put a little piece of code around that submit button. And then secondly, you need to come in here and build the goal. And this part's the easy part. So if you go, like, if you're interested in doing this, go in the Help Center and search for what's called event tracking, and you'll find the particular instructions and code piece that you need to put around the submit button. Oh, I'm sorry that involves code, but it's possible for sure. Question in the back. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I stumbled over myself a little bit there, but when you're setting up the experiment, the easiest thing is if you kept it to target 100% of site traffic, 50% will go to the original and 50% will go to the variation. If you target only, like, let's say you wanted to run a little bit more of a cautious test, which is what I was doing, 50% of site traffic, it will do 25% to the test page and 75% to the home page. Does that make sense? If you have more variations, then there's more math. Okay, question. Okay, so the question is, what's universal analytics? Do we have to convert to it? Do you already have a Google Analytics account? So recently, we just launched a new version of the tracking code and a new vision of how we like to do Google Analytics, which we've called Universal Analytics. So if you already have Google Analytics installed, you have like the older traditional version, and you don't have to like change it. You can keep it as it is. The only reason you'd want to like update, which would involve creating a new account and choosing the Universal Analytics option, is because there's a couple features coming down the line that are only going to be available if you have that new piece of code. And I actually think you were the one who asked about unified segments, which was the way to like exclude out people who visited the site 10 or more times. That wasn't you. Anyways, that's one of the new features that's only going to be for Universal Analytics. So to kind of recap this for everybody, if you don't have Google Analytics right now, just choose the Universal Analytics option, which is the newest tag, because it's going to get you like some features that you can't get otherwise. If you have the old tag, it's totally fine to use. There's no rush, but maybe like next time you update the code on your site anyways, you might as well just slip that in and take care of two birds with one stone. Question? Mm-hmm. So I don't know all the integrations off the top of my head. I don't think that there's a Facebook integration. but you'd need to maybe call up Facebook and ask them. I am pretty sure the answer to that is no. What you can do though is, let's say you have your own Facebook page, and forgive me, I'm like the worst at social media, but I think you can create your own business page and upload like your own, messages and about us, right? Okay, so what you might want to do is when you're making your own Facebook page, use those manual tags. Remember that URL builder that we showed you earlier, and tag up the links from your Facebook page to your site. And that way you can know exactly on which parts of my Facebook business page are people clicking on. Or if you post an update, can you do that too? Like updates from the site on Facebook? You can tag each one of those social updates with a manual tag to see which ones were successful in getting the most people to your analytics site. So that's a little bit separate than what the Tumblr integration would be, because it doesn't track their activity on the Facebook page, but the closest you can get is tagging the links. Yeah.
So if you set up a Facebook business page, within the Facebook interface, there's an analytics page that works as a kind of condensed version of Google Analytics just for your agency.
Yes, I just agree with the whole thing, and it looks like there's some information I can get. Just let me be better.
And I'm just going to repeat that for the recording's sake. Is someone noted that if you start a Facebook business page, Facebook offers like a Facebook analytics, which gives you this type of information. So you'll just need to log into like both accounts to see the different information. Is that what you were going to say?
No, I was actually going to ask a question about switching over eventually to universal analytics. So let's say a foundation asks you for the past year, like, what have your numbers been? What are your most popular pages? Blah, blah, blah. What's your social media stuff? And then, you switch to universal analytics like halfway through the year. Would you then have to run reports on both and then kind of sell the data in order to get your averages? Like, you couldn't just...
Good question. So the question, just for the mic's sake, is if you migrate from regular analytics that you already have to universal, so you have to create a new account from scratch, what if you want to run and pull data from a time period that spans the migration? You would have to pull it twice and then add it up in Excel. We're trying to we just launched this, and we're trying to make it easier to actually just press a button and have it be migrated in the same account, but I don't know if they're going to go forward with that. So for now, you'll need to pull it twice. The good news is the data doesn't disappear, and the only time that you'll run into this problem is if you're running a report for a time period that spans the date range, but you nailed it on the head. Just do an Excel merge or something. Question?
Along those lines, is it good to keep both tracking codes then on the site so that you still have
So the question was, could you keep both tracking codes, the old one and the new one, on the site so that you don't have to have this merge? You definitely can. So you can have regular Google Analytics, like the older version, and this newer Universal Analytics at the same time. And some of our bigger clients are definitely doing that intentionally just because they want to trust the new tag first. And I trust it, so I'm not saying it's not trustworthy, but there's no problems at all with running them both at the same time. You're probably going to see a slight difference in the data just based on how the tags work. So the only reason I ever caution someone against it is because I don't want them to then get focused on that type of thing. But yeah, you can definitely do that. Another question? Yeah.
along the lines of universal analytics, so Google Analytics tracks any unique visitors to the site. Is there an ID that gets assigned to that unique visitor session that we could then write into our CRM system, for instance, with information, and tie back to the contact record, and then maybe be able to query Google and say what page views came off?
Okay, so this is a techie question from the right. with Universal Analytics, is there a unique visitor ID that you can send to your CRM or backend system to tie offline data to online data? That's one of the major reasons why we launched Universal Analytics, and so yes, this will be possible. They're kind of like fleshing out if we're going to provide our visitor ID or if you have to provide us your visitor ID, but there's definitely something that's coming, and it's not even like launched in a demo account yet. So,
and that's not restricted by the terms of service, right? Like, I think the previous one, you weren't allowed, like, the terms of service said you weren't allowed to relate that with a personally identified data.
correct. Yep.
So the new one you can.
Yep. As long as you don't send like personally identifiable information to Google Analytics, that's the only thing that's like stayed the same in the terms of, not the only thing, but as far as those lines go. So this is one more like word of caution. I word of cautioned you on watch your filter setups. One more is please don't send like someone's email address into Google Analytics or their phone number or their name, or else if for some reason we find that, we'll have to unfortunately just delete your account. Sorry, but it's in the terms of service that you may or may not scrupulously read. But anyways, yes, so that's a good to know. One thing before we run out of time, I just wanted to point out 3 useful resources if you like Google Analytics and you're excited about it and you want to continue learning more. First things first is just the Google Analytics Help Center. It's pretty well built out. There's even like sections on like how to increase goal conversion rates or like specific analysis type sections. The second thing is this, I don't know, it used to be called conversionuniversity.com, but if you just run a Google search for Conversion University, it's the first thing that comes up. And this is a really easy like video learning. So on each of these links, let's say I wanted to learn more about filters, which is something we talked about. There's just a video link right here. And they're really nice videos, not a snoozer at all. And then the third resource, this is for more power users. So if this is where we launch all of our brand new features. It's the analytics blog. So analytics.blogspot.com. And I think like we really do a good job keeping the blog up to date, so far as to say we sometimes put stuff in the blog that we don't put in the help center. So there's a lot of like up-to-date resources here. If you're interested in the new features of Universal Analytics, then this is the spot for you. So I think these are probably the 3 best resources for learning more. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
And again, we're recording this, so hopefully we'll have it where we can send it out afterwards in case you had to go to the bathroom, missed something, you want to read it again. And thank you. We're the Hands-On Tech team, and we have some upcoming trainings. We have a blogging webinar on Thursday, and you can check our website and find out more about what we're coming up. I know we're planning a YouTube training for this summer, and hopefully some other fun training. So yeah, definitely look into our site. So thank you again for coming.
There's only one line of code that we're going off.